It's a product of Piedmont. I can't even think of our own name. Piedmont Folk Legacies, and a joint project with the Rockingham County Education Foundation. But thanks to a wonderful, generous grant from the Rockingham County Arts Council and the North Carolina Arts Council, we are honored to have Don Flemons, multiple Grammy nominee and winner, Emmy nominee, musician, scholar, all around good fella, and super talented. And Don, we're so honored to have you with us. And we've got our P.I.C. kids sitting here waiting to hear this wonderful music unfold. And as we talked for just a minute ago, we're looking forward to the day when we can have you back in person. We've had you here before at the Charlie Pool Music Festival, and maybe by the time you come back to join us in person, these kids will have perfected their craft and will join you on stage. So,
Oh,
but until then, I'm going to turn the virtual stage over to you, and we're looking forward to a great night of music. So thank you for coming.
well, thank you all so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And, I've had such a wonderful time every time I've been down at Charlie Pool. And one of the reasons is because Charlie Pool, as a musician, was such a multifaceted songster who performed a lot of different types of music. And that was something that was always of interest to me. And so this first song I'll play for you is one called Charmin' Betsy. And I got this from the recordings of another early songster, a fellow by the name of Henry Ragtime Texas Thomas. And he featured this instrument, the quills, which you can find all over the world in South America and different parts of the Caribbean and Africa. And I brought a special banjo here, my good friend Big Head Joe, who's a special large 6-string guitar banjo. And he's going to be accompanying me on this number here, Charmin' Betsy. And so it's a little medley of different numbers. And Charlie Poole is one of the other musicians who tended to feature these sort of medleys in his records. So here we go with Charmin' Betsy. This is an old square dance number. I'm going down the mountain, Charmin' Betsy. Going down the mountain to a lead. If I never see you no more, you Lord remember me. First time I seen Charmin' Betsy, want everything that you see. Last time I seen Charmin' Betsy, she wearing that ball and chain. Yes, I'm going around the mountain, Charmin' Betsy. Going around the mountain to Lee. If I never see you, Mom, you Lord remember me.
All right.
Wonderful. Well, should I just keep picking them, or did
You
you
just
want to ask
you just
any
let it
questions?
go, Don. The
Or as
floor
we
is
go?
yours.
All right. Well, let's keep on moving with it. Let's see here now. This one, let me get a little. This is a different type of banjo. This is a 4-string plectrum banjo, they call it, and this is a banjo that's generally associated with jazz music. So it's when you're playing it, you kind of compared to the six string there, I had more of a guitar strum. You sort of get a real nice, quick, sort of chunky chord sound. And that's a certain way you can play the four string, but over time I've developed a few different ways of picking it. Like one way is just to give you a little sense of Charlie Poole. When I got to spend some time with the great Kenny Rohrer, he showed me a little bit of one of Charlie Poole's banjo rolls, and I incorporated into my version of Milwaukee Blues. And so let me sing this one for you real quick. There wasn't bad in the train. I'm insane, won't you open the door? He's a good old hobo and he's trying to get home. Trying to get home. Yes, trying to get home. He's a good old hobo and he's trying to get home. Way down in Georgia on the train, the roads getting muddy and the leaves getting damp. Gotta get the freight train to leave this town to be around. The hobos are hanging around, hanging around, hanging around. Said you'll have to pay. Got no money but upon the shoes. I'm going out west. I got the Milwaukee Blues. Milwaukee Blues. Yes, Milwaukee Blues. I'm going out west. I got the Milwaukee Blues. All right, again. So the boats can ride. When they ride the rods. They put all the trust in the hands of God. Hands of God. Yes, hands of God. They'll put all the trust in the hands of God. Now old Bill said just before he died, there's two old roads he'd like to ride. Old Bill, what can be? It's the Southern Pacific and the Santa Fe. Santa Fe. Yes, Santa Fe. It's Southern Pacific and the Santa Fe.
Dom, I'm excited that you showed them a few Charlie Poole licks there. We've got some of our good banjo students tuned in tonight, Christopher and Lillian and Lincoln and Braylon. Wasn't that awesome? Wasn't that awesome? And you'll learn some different banjo playing styles as we go forward. And of course, we got guitar students here tonight too. So,
well, feel free to ask me a couple of questions as we go along tonight, because I just picked a couple, just a couple out of just top of my head, and a couple of them that I know that Louise likes, you know. So I was, you know, one of the interesting stories I got from the last time I was at Charlie Poole is that Kenny Rohrer, he actually gave me a strong connecting point for Big Head Joe, which I started out the concert with. And he was telling me that he had a banjo that was similar, but it was a smaller tenor banjo owned by another group called the Four Pickled Peppers, who were a group that were popular after Charlie Poole in the mid 1930s
Froze.
Hang on, Dom. You
Exactly, might be a part of the group, but
You froze up.
what was that? Sorry, huh?
Your screen froze up for just a
The
second.
screen
You're
froze
back.
up a little bit,
Yeah,
but
you're back.
yeah, the four pickled peppers are a great one. And one of the things that's beautiful about Charlie Poole's style is the use of the three finger style and incorporating what at the time they called classic banjo or vaudeville banjo that featured a lot of classical guitar finger rudiments. He incorporated that, and later on it became bluegrass banjo as we know it. Like for example, here's sort of an old-timey bluegrass number that doesn't use a three finger style. This is a song from the Monroe brothers, Bill and Charlie Monroe, and this is one called Long Journey Home. And so I kind of feature a little bit more of the Kentucky overhand style, which is a type of playing that it's usually associated with Uncle Dave Macon, even though he wasn't from Kentucky, but it's a sort of style that while playing a four beat, you have four beats you can play with your other hand, and at certain points you can double the rhythm of your banjo playing just by using your hands like so. But the overhand style is sort of taking the right hand and sort of creating a bouncing it sort of gives a train rhythm to it. So a lot of Kentucky banjo styles tend to have that going on, but it's a sort of a trick move as well. When you start getting into the fast breakdowns, you can start to go into some different techniques. So let me show you a little bit on Long Journey Home.
Wonderful. Don, we've got two great teachers that assigned him tonight. I'm sure Caleb appreciated that one. He's a good bluegrass picker. And of course, our fiddle teacher is Katie Griffin, whom you may have remembered seeing at the festival. She grew up, she was a little kid, came to the festival and competed, and now she's teaching for us.
Oh, that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, fresh for her studies. So this is a great class. We got Felicity, one of our banjo students, and Noah, one of our guitar students here, and I know they're enjoying this tremendously. So it's great.
Well, I'm so glad. I'm so glad you all are enjoying. It's just a pleasure, and that's one of the things that I'm always so blown away is that in 2020, I just am so glad to see all the work that's been done over the past couple of decades to try to teach the young folks about traditional music, and I'm just so glad to see that that's continuing forward in such a big way, in a beautiful way. That's so wonderful. Just for a long time I was interested in this old time music, but I didn't have a lot of people that were playing it, so I just kind of learned the songs myself, and then over time I found others who liked that sound, and I was able to help create at least a little awareness about it. Let's see. Well, this next one, let me think about. Let me go ahead and I'll play one original one here. This is one from the Black Cowboys album here on the guitar, just to give you a little bit of that Piedmont picking, because that sort of runs up right in line with Charlie Poole, as the evolution of the guitar as a popular instrument, as well as the banjo being one of the world's most popular instruments leading into the 20th century from the 19th century. But let me go ahead and play a little bit. This is a little piece that I wrote after reading the autobiography of a black cowboy by the name of Nat Love, and this is a song called "Steel Pony Blues," and goes a little something like this. When you get down to Holbrook, you won't find me there. Good Lord, I caught the first thing smoking down the road somewhere. Caught the first thing smoking down the road somewhere. Cause I caught my steel pony and boys, I'm gonna ride. Getting far too old to follow this here herd. Good Lord, I caught the first thing smoking down the road somewhere. Caught the first thing smoking down the road somewhere. Cause I caught my steel pony and boys, I'm gonna ride. Now they call me Mr. Flemons, cause I'm a pool porter now. Good Lord, I caught the first thing smoking down the road somewhere. Caught the first thing smoking down the road somewhere. Cause I caught the steel pony and boys, I'm gonna ride. Go ahead and get it 1 5 6. They go on down the trail. Now they call me Mr. Flemons, cause I done told that guitar down. Good Lord, I caught the first thing smoking down the road somewhere. Now when you get over there, you won't find me, cause I caught my steel pony and boys, I'm gonna ride. Get on one more time, get on down the trail. Huh?
Knowing Ben, see what y'all will be able to do on that guitar before long.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
job.
It's just three chords and the truth there, you know, and even for that one, that's just a little fancy guitar move I made just so I could change keys. That song changes from the key of C to the key of F. And the way I decided to do it, there's an old country blues song I used to do a lot from a guy named Robert Wilkins, and the song's called Police Sergeant Blues, but it has a lick on it that sort of goes, so. Which was so it goes F, and then goes back down to C, and then G, C, seventh, and then F, C, and then G, you know, just almost three chords in the truth. And that was something that really drew me in. So when I wrote that song, Steel Pony Blues, I decided to take the same idea and just, and it created a beautiful little chord here that also has sort of a dissonant note if I happen to be feeling good on one night and I want to kind of shock the audience with a slightly interesting note. You can have, on a normal night I pick the 3, but on an interesting night I might hit the extra note, but you can.
Hey, Don, I think one of our students has a question. I think Miss Lillian has a question. She's got her hand raised.
Oh, yes.
Lillian, can you unmute yourself? There we go. Lillian, what's your question for Mr. Flemons?
Do all banjos have different sizes?
Yes, actually, every banjo has a different size. Actually, most 5-string banjos have the same general size. I brought some interesting shaped banjos with me specifically, and I'm glad you noticed that they were slightly different than your normal banjo you might see, I guess, on TV or in most bands. Most banjos, actually, let me show you. I actually don't have a standard 5-string with me, but the only 5-string I usually carry is this little gourd banjo. Hold on one second.
Lillian, you'll like this. This is cool.
So this is what they call a gourd banjo, and literally it's made out of a gourd, and a gourd is what they call a calabash, which is pumpkins, since we're near Halloween, watermelons, cantaloupes, those are all different types of calabashes. But for many, many years, musicians created banjos with these gourds here, especially in the early days when enslaved Africans were still making the instruments as a homemade instrument before they became popular on the mainstream stages of popular American music. And so this is one that's meant to be sort of reminiscent of the sound. Of course, let me show you on the back here. I showed everybody on the interview, but just to kind of show you again, there are these beautiful little birds on the back, and it has a little family tree. So this is a tree that you can find in Haiti, and these little 3 leaves are built on the idea of life and all of its passages. And so in Haiti, there are a lot of stories built on the 3 leaves. So there's that. And the birds are called Sankofa birds. Now, if everybody takes the time, if you've got a piece of paper near you, to write down the word Sankofa, Sankofa, it's a very beautiful word. It's a West African proverb, a saying or a phrase or a motto, which means go back and fetch it. And it's an idea of going back to the past and bringing the things that you need from the past, taking them into the present with you, and then being able to build a new future based off of that idea. And it also sort of sends a caveat that the past doesn't all need to come with you. You don't need to bring 100% of the past with you. You need to bring the important lessons that will help you to guide that new future. And so it's depicted a lot of times by these sort of birds here, these Sankofa birds that are representing a bird flying forward, but it's touching its beak to its back wing, representing the lessons it's taking with it as it's flying forward. And so this banjo is interesting compared to the banjos you've been hearing. This is somewhat like how Big Head Joe sounds. A nice low tone compared to the sort of the high tone of the normal steel stringed banjo. But let me play you a little bit on here, because once you take the banjo and make it a low toned instrument, you can handle the syncopation slightly different. So like, for example, here's a little bit of Steel Driving Man, John Henry on the gourd banjo.
All right. Legan, that was a great question.
I got a question, Mr. Dom,
Yeah.
Mr. Flemons. Are all gourd banjos, are they traditionally fretless like that one?
Usually, in the early 1990s, there was a sort of a revival of gourd banjo, and it started around a guy named Scott Didlick, it's sort of an interesting thing. So the banjo is an African-derived instrument. So you have it coming from Africa and going into the Caribbean with enslaved Africans. That's a very long history that goes way back. So by the time we get to the 1830s, 1840s, and 50s, the banjo has been incorporated into American culture through American popular music. And again, moving far ahead and far past those areas, we get to the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, and a lot more scholarship on folk music is available to people. And so by the time you get to the early 1990s, you start having luthiers creating replica gourd banjos, taking the ideas that they've read about in books about early African instruments that are similar to the banjo and trying to incorporate those ideas into luthiery practices of a modern luthier. So they created replica gourd banjos. Banjo, he specifically was starting to make Sankofa birds, and so we customized this to be a family heirloom for us, so that we would have a family tree of my own family, as well as I mentioned the three leaves, and then he had some beautiful black palm as well, that's featured on the fretboard. And most gourd banjos are fretless in most cases. There are differing theories about fretless banjos. There's there was a certain point when people wanted to take on the idea of a fretted instrument so they could play more complex melodic pieces and whatnot. And no frets is very hard to keep right with the melody. You have to really be, you have to be a fiddler basically. And that's not good for a banjo player to be a fiddler. That's what fiddlers are for.
Tom, am I right that the fiddle is about the only instrument you don't play?
That's correct. It's one that I just, I've tried 3-4 times to pick up this instrument. It's too hard for me. Thankfully I picked up the harmonica, and that ended up working out well for playing fiddle tunes myself. And once I did that, I said I can't bother with the fiddle for the minute. But maybe one day. That mainly because I'd like to be a singing fiddler, like fiddling John Carson, and that's like the hardest style of fiddling there is because you've got no safety net.
That'd be great. One of our great fiddle students is on here tonight, Felicity. Felicity, does that make you feel better about how good you're doing? But I'm sure you would tell her to go listen to some good Joe Thompson.
Yeah, well, Joe Thompson is always someone I'd listen to a lot. And for fiddlers, oh boy, I mean, there's so many different fiddlers. For North Carolina, I mean, there's the great Pine Cone collection going down to Raleigh that came out. Nice 2 CD set that has everything from Joe to Marvin Gaster and Lachlan and Evelyn Shaw and a lot of really great players from all over the state. And I had the great fortune when I first came out to North Carolina from Arizona to have gotten a chance to see a lot of great players from Benton Flippin to, who else was there that was really active at that time? There are people that are still active, like David Bass, who you can go out and see still. He's still a wonderful fiddler that is still around. I mean, the list is literally endless. And Kurt Supfin, since we're talking about the Piedmont, he's always someone that is great for fiddle tunes as well as banjo. And if you want to hear about an interesting songster, Ernest Thompson is one of his relatives as well. But I did a harmonica piece years ago that I still perform in a lot of my shows. This is one called "There's a Brown Skinned Girl Down the Road Somewhere," and I heard this from the recordings of Eck Robertson, and I adapted it to fit in the style of D. Ford Bailey, who was an early pioneer African-American harmonica player. And also, since we're talking about Western Carolina, I always like to mention Gwen Foster and his beautiful recording of the Wilkes County Blues also influenced my arrangement. Just some of those, I call them the spaceship sounds that Gwen Foster featured on many of the Carolina Tar Heels original recordings. But I'll play a little bit of "There's a Brown Skinned Girl Down the Road Somewhere" for you, just to give a little taste of this, because this one's definitely, there's a lot of D Ford in it, but there's also a lot of that beautiful Western Carolina harmonica style in this arrangement.
All right. Wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Fun.
Yeah, that was a beautiful little a little piece there, and just for many years, I went into the archives and I went to the Southern Folklife collection over at UNC Chapel Hill, and I talked to people like Steve Weiss, the librarian, and I asked him about stuff. I was particularly looking for North Carolina string band music and African American music, and he actually took me on quite a journey that got me started on a path that to this day I have a collection, the Dom Flemons collection over at the library, and over time as I began to document things, I started to find that there was relevance and significance in the work I was doing individually. So I kind of changed from being just a fan and someone learning to being someone who was helping to preserve a couple of different styles, and even in my concerts, I try to feature, of course, I feature a lot of different songs as the American Songster. I don't only do folk music, but I do blues and country and early jazz and ragtime. But I also like to feature a couple of different songs that are deeply rooted in a particular style. And especially when it comes to North Carolina, I can't help but think of my good friend John D. Holman, who's still over there in Durham, or Boo Hanks from Buffalo Junction, who's gone and passed away now, and Aljamain Hinton, who's passed away nowadays. But some of the wonderful pickers that I got to meet over time, and I've just taken the time to try to remind people of some of that beautiful Carolina Piedmont blues sound. And so I put together this little medley of Elizabeth Cotton, Etta Baker, and Leslie Riddle. Sort of a medley of train songs. So Freight Train, Railroad Bill, and then the Cannonball Blues. And it's just one of those styles that I took a lot of time to sit with a lot of the masters and learn how to pick this particular way. So I'm going to just pick a little bit for you. I take this all over the world with me because it's a sound that's made it all over there, and it's always in high demand.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Lovely.
It's one of those beautiful things that just to be able to sit with people on their porches and to be able to play that music, it takes me back to those memories of when I got to sit with them and all the good times we got to spend. And that's a beautiful thing about music. I can't get enough of that aspect of it, you know.
Exactly.
I mean, are there any other questions for the students out there?
Kids, anybody got a question?
Nope.
Okay, well, I'll pick another one then. So
Just enjoying the show, right?
well, let's see here. Let me pick up the tempo just a little bit on this next one. This is one that over the years has evolved into a bunch of different techniques. This is a piece called "Po Black Sheep" that I heard on an album called Altamont many years ago, and so over the years, I guess basically the melody is. So that's basically the melody, and then there's a. Then. Yeah, so that's with no embellishments whatsoever on Po Black Sheep. And over the years, I've added a bunch of different embellishments, some of the overhand technique like I did in Long Journey Home, a couple of extra little sweeps, kind of like I saw Joe Thompson's cousin do, Odell Thompson, many years ago on some archival footage, and a couple of different things I picked up from players, as well as a couple of techniques I picked up from a wonderful musician who I got to meet named Shekamala Jabate from West Africa, from Mali. And one of the things I found so interesting with his type of music is a lot of the African tunes he plays in the Ngoni, they're built off of a lick or a riff. So a lot of times he'll have a song that would be something along the lines of. And so having backed him up a couple of different times, I have to continue to do. To hold the whole structure together. And then he will do like. And any number of embellishments over the. And that's the whole performance, is really holding the structure together while you have embellishments. So this tune, even though it's an old time banjo number, I decided to put some of those embellishments on. So I'm going to play it for you now. Here's a little bit of Po Black Sheep.
Dom, I think Lillian had another question for us, our little banjo player.
Yeah.
How long have you been playing?
All
I've
right.
been playing the banjo. Ooh, I've been playing that one since about 2001. So it's been 19 years, almost 20 years I've been playing the banjo. Very good question.
Yeah, that's 20 years of practice, Lillian, but
That's
you
right.
can get there. You can get there.
And I tell people all the time, a banjo needs just a porch and some time. That's all you need to learn a banjo. Porch and some time.
There you go. There you go.
Mm-mm.
Lillian's a good student. She'll do good. Yeah, we got
Oh,
some good banjo players in the group here.
oh, wonderful. Well, I hope we get together sometime so we can really get a chance to pick some. So that would be a beautiful thing.
Something for us
But
all.
let me get another one here on Big Head Joe here. This is one that's more in the style of one of my other mentors, Boo Hanks, and he played a style of Piedmont picking that was really syncopated. He was from Henderson, North Carolina, and actually lived in a town called Buffalo Junction, right over the Virginia line, and he used to have this sort of style that was, well, compared to how I was playing before with the Etta Baker style is very smooth. And Boo Hanks tended to have he had a rougher syncopated bass note that he tended to do. But I'll show you right now. This is an old Blind Boy Fuller number called Keep On Truckin' Mama, Truckin' My Blues Away. Keep on trucking, mama, trucking my blues away. Keep on trucking, baby, every night and day. I got a gal that's a little low, says she love me, but she don't know more. Keep on trucking, baby, trucking my blues away, oh yeah, trucking my blues away. Keep on trucking, baby, trucking my blues away. Keep on trucking, mama, every night and day. I got a gal down in New Orleans, she cooks them hogs and collard greens. Keep on trucking, baby, trucking my blues away, oh yeah, trucking my blues away.
All right. That was a good one.
All right. Well, let's see. I see we got a little thing in the comments. Well, thank you so much. We've got some beautifuls and some nices and things. I
Indeed.
appreciate that. Well, one of the other interesting instruments that I picked up in my travels has been this one here, the rhythm bones. Now,
Right.
this is an instrument that these are literally bones. These are cow rib bones. I didn't procure them myself, but a good friend of mine did. They're two ribs that you hold between the fingers. So basically, I'm holding them between my fingers like so, and then I'm holding one bone tight into the palm like so, and then the other one is kind of hanging a little bit loose here. So when I hold them together and I move my whole wrist, I get a click and a click. So that's how it starts. But if I make more of a kind of an egg shape, I can get a whole triplet. Now, if I add a little melody, it sounds like this here when I get some good rhythm.
Right. I love it.
So that's a little bit of the rhythm bones there. So, you know, and there are a lot of different ways, obviously, that you could play the bones within old time music. Sometimes fast music, sometimes slow music, and then sometimes just with some harmonica music, which can also be a wonderful thing to be able to do there. Let me see what else I have in my little bag of tricks here. I figure that you probably all might want to hear one more Gord banjo number at least. I noticed I got about 2 numbers on everything, but I only had time for one Gord banjo number up to this point. Now this is a square dance number. This is one from Joe Thompson, who we mentioned before, who came from Mebane, North Carolina, and this is one of the old time numbers that I used to do with him. And of course, a few years back, the Charlie Poole Festival honored Joe and myself and Bob Carlin, who is another wonderful banjo player who backed up Joe for many years. We got to accept the award on his behalf. But this is one I got to hear Joe sing many times, Old Corn Liquor. But he called it Great Big Eight for the P.I.C. kids right now. He'd call it Great Big Eight, not Old Corn Liquor. So we'll do Great Big Eight for you right now.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Love it. Can't wait for the day when we can all be together and have a good dance.
Oh, that would be a great time, because that was
that'll be a good day.
When I came out was learning to square dance. I had never, I had seen square dancing on TV, but I didn't really know that you could get down like you could really get down when you have a good band and a wonderful partner and 6 other folks that are willing to get in that great big circle with you.
Yeah, lots of fun. That day will come again. Just got to hang on.
Mm-hmm.
Dom, this has been incredible. This is just incredible. And just can't thank you enough for joining in and sharing with the kids. And I just can't wait for you to meet them in person one day. They're studying so hard and doing good. Zoom is not the most ideal classroom, but they're studying hard and they're doing great.
Well, I'm so glad everybody's keeping right with it and keeping resilient in these times, because this is the time we need to keep our heads up and also keep our minds open and learning new information and taking that information to the future. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. We need that.
Exactly. Has anybody got a question still for Mr. Flemons before we let him get away? Ben, I think Ben's got a question. Ben, can you unmute yourself? One of our good guitarists here.
All right.
Ben, oh, there we go.
How long have you played the guitar?
Well, the guitar I played a little bit longer than the banjo. I started in 1998, so that's been about 22 years. And you know, I just saw a documentary on rock and roll one day when I was coming up, and I saw Chuck Berry, and I said I got to do that, and I felt pretty good once I could do this. I could do. Once I could do one of those, I was feeling really good about that. That was about 22 years ago, though. Great
Sounds
question.
good. Yeah. Anybody else got a question? Don't
Yeah,
get-
so my question is, what advice do you have for our students as far as practicing goes? I know practicing can be kind of hard for a kid to fit into their busy schedules, but is it worth it?
Oh yeah, practicing is always worth it, because how you want to think about practicing is that when you get to the real performance, you don't want to be thinking about it. That's how I always treat it. You got to practice up. You see, like I sat here and I played for you. It's because I've practiced these songs so much that just to pull the guitar out, I can just go right into a song. But see, I've practiced them so much I can even.
Caleb, that kind of fits into what you try to teach them, isn't it? If you're still with us.
Right. Yep. Don't
Yeah,
practice
I
till
can-
don't practice till you get it right, but practice it till you can't get it wrong. That's what I always say.
Exactly. And that's basically the idea, is that you want to just be so practiced on it that I learned to practice it in front of me and behind my head, rolling on the ground in every sort of way, because it needed to be in my fingers that much, especially when it comes to stringed instruments, because that's really where you can find, when you take it into a performance setting, that's where you really can see where you've put that time in. And there's nothing that can replace the amount of hours that you put into your instrument when it comes down to reflecting it and taking it out into the bigger public sphere. Because that's where you really want to be when you want to get out on stage. You want to make sure that solo is right there, instead of wondering if you're going to get it, because you want the audience on the edge of their seat, not yourself. In the best situation.
Exactly. Yeah. Good advice. Anybody else got a good question, Mr. Flemons?
No other questions?
Any hands up? Well, can we all give him everybody unmute, and let's give Mr. Flemons a good round of applause. Say yay!
Thank you so much. Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So, all right, Dom. Thank you so much for joining in with us, and we'll look for the future when we can all be together. In the meantime, stay safe. Keep playing that great music, and stay tuned, because you're going to hear from these P.I.C. kids.
All right. Well, that sounds like a plan. Well, everybody stay safe out there. Keep picking, keep grinning, keep having a good time. And thank you again, Louise. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, everybody, for having me.
Thank you. Take care.